Hey everybody, I actually have 6 college basketball games today I want to talk about. 6. I have 4 underdogs, and then I've got 1 favorite, and then I have my favorite game, and I'll say for last, is actually a favorite, and I'll talk a little bit more about that game. But let's start here with Northeastern. They're 5.5-point favorites. They are on the road at Central Connecticut. So again, favorite on the road. Some people I know never play that. That's okay. Northeastern is, if you look at their record, it's, you may think they're not a very good team. And for what they are, a small school, they're actually a pretty talented team. And they've had a lot of close losses and really competitive games against some pretty good teams. Last one was just Virginia. They lost to them by 2 points. That's pretty impressive. And Seton Hall is in there, Vermont, Princeton, a couple of pretty competitive. So taking on Central Connecticut, they're definitely a better team. I know it's a road game and they're giving 4.5 points, but I do like that. So I'm sticking with them. And then there are 4 underdogs I want to talk about. First one is Presbyterian. They are actually at Furman. Taking a shot here. Presbyterian's numbers are really good, but they have one of the worst schedules in the country. So they haven't really played anybody. So it's one of those games where it's like, well, are they really this good, or is it all schedule? But they're getting 13.5 points, which is quite a bit. So again, they lose by 13. I don't care. But on paper, they look pretty good. Schedule is the one thing that really, if you don't want to go with that, I totally understand. It's the one thing that kind of throws me a bit. But 13.5 points, I'm going to take a shot with them. So Presbyterian 13.5 over Furman. Next is Western Carolina. They're getting 3.5 points at Vanderbilt, and I know it's like, well, you're stepping up to a big school, but Vanderbilt is horrible. They've had a really horrible year. Nothing is going well for them. And if you look at Western Carolina, they're a pretty good team. I honestly think they're a better team anyway. You start looking at the shooting and defense and that sort of thing, they're comparable. Actually, they're better. I honestly, truly think they're a better team, even though it's, you're stepping up a weight class. And they're getting, 3.5 points on the road. But I think that they will they'll shoot well enough or actually win the game outright. That's my guess. So I'm taking a shot there. South Dakota, 4.5-point underdog at Cal State Bakersfield. South Dakota beat them 2 weeks ago at home. They have a great 3-point shooting team, a really good rebounding team, and they're just an overall better team. So I know it's, again, road game, I get it, but you're getting 4.5 points. I honestly think they won it outright, but I'll take the 4.5. And the last of the underdogs is Cal State Northridge. They are 17.5-point underdogs at UCLA. Again, jumping up in class. Usually when you see these 17.5 points and you see UCLA playing a weaker team, you're just thinking, they're probably good enough. It's one of those 20, 30-point games you expect. UCLA has not played very well. They have lost 3 of the last 4. And I haven't played well all year. I think they're 5-5, but they lost 3 of the last 4. Game they won, they beat Cal Riverside by 1 point. It's just they're not playing very impressively. Northridge, I think, is not like I'm saying they're a good team, but I think they're good enough in the situation where they can hang within 17.5 points. So I'm going with that. All right, so my final pick, and I just want to throw this out there. I am taking the Indiana Hoosiers at home against Morehead State. Indiana is a 12-point favorite. Anywhere between 11 and 13.5 I've seen. So really, it's moved a bit, but right now I see it at 12, so I'm going to say 12. Just to throw it out there, I am a lifelong IU fan. I don't bet a lot on them. I never would bet against them. It's just part of the juju, the superstition part. My thing about IU is early in the year, they have a lot of new pieces this year, and if you follow the sports, you know. So they lost about 80% of their minutes and starts and points and rebounds and everything. They're relying on freshmen and sophomores who didn't play a lot last year. And so early in the year, particularly those first 3 games of the year, as they're playing their cupcakes, they were not blowing them out. Which, if you look at their Ken Pom numbers and their net, it's not as good as I would like it to be as a fan. And a big part of it is they did not blow out those teams. The biggest part of that was their 3-point defense was bottom 10% in all of college basketball. Trying to learn, who's going to go where, who's switching where, blah, blah, blah. They were giving up a lot of 3-pointers to those teams early. And again, when you're playing these cupcakes early, the way they have to win is to shoot more 3-pointers than normal because they can't really score on the inside because Indiana and these bigger schools obviously have bigger, more athletic players. It's harder to score in the paint. Well, they did a great job of it. They shot 40% and high volume and kept themselves in the game. But obviously Indiana won them all, and that's fine. Well, the 7 games since, if you look at Indiana's 3-point defense, they are top 100. They're somewhere around that 100 mark in all of the 360-some schools. So they've improved, and obviously their schedule improved. If you take out one game, the Auburn game, where Auburn scored 100 points on them and they just went crazy, and I think they were 14-29 from 3. They did everything well, and it's just one of those games. If you take that out, Indiana's about 20th out of 360. That's how good it's been, and that counts. Princeton is a pretty good 3-point shooting team. A couple Big Ten teams in Maryland and Michigan, as well as UConn and Kansas. They do about 20. If you just take those 6, and it's cherry picking again, but I'm just trying to throw it, let you know what I'm looking at. They do about 20th in the country. So the idea is that they have vastly improved the biggest problem they actually had, which was 3-point defense. So Moorhead, they shoot. They're in the hundreds on how often they shoot threes, and they're in the hundreds of how of their shooting percentage. So they're above average. They're also not very big. They're an extremely small school. They are going to have to shoot a bunch of threes because Indiana's front line is huge and athletic. So it's going to be again, if Moorhead goes crazy and shoots a ton of threes and they make a ton, just launch stuff. I guess I could stay in it, and it could be a single-digit game. My guess is it's not going to happen. Just based on the last 7 games, I don't think so. So my best bet of the night is actually with Indiana, and they're 12-point favorites. Again, if the early season hadn't happened, they'd probably be a 20-point favorite. But when you start crunching the numbers, I can see why they put it at 12. But it seems at this point in time, it seems kind of silly. So 6 games overall, it's quite a bit. 4 underdogs, and Indiana, and I do think they actually win it by 20 plus. That's my guess. And the last part about that as well is that you look at their KenPom numbers, and especially their net. Teams basically, you have to blow out those bad teams. That's why your net gets is so high, and that's what they're looking at tournament time. IU knows that, and I think a big part of it is they're at the point now. They have like 3 cupcakes before they start the Big Ten season. And I think they kind of realize that these next 3 games, they kind of need to pour it on. You need to jump up a little bit before Big Ten season starts. So these next 3 games they play, I'm guessing they're all going to be 20, 30-point games, and they need to be because it's going to help them out. So